see you. You're Kenneth.
Yes, I am.
Good to
I
meet
go
you.
by Ken. I peace of mind farming, but all depends on. Well, we're about ready to go live. I look forward to this, DJ.
All right, cool. Yeah, likewise.
Excellent. I'm gonna yeah, just once we get once we're live, there it is. I need to silence the volume on my tablet real quick. Pardon my professionalism or lack thereof. Welcome to the FCP, DJ. It's been a long time.
Great. Well, thanks for having me. Good to be here.
Now, let me double check, make sure my volumes are good. Yes, excellent. Okay, I'm gonna start everyone by laying out a little narrative about DJ with a little help from AI. We put together an introduction, and in the annals of cannabis history, few figures loom as large or as mysteriously as DJ Short, often called the Willy Wonka of pot. He is not merely a breeder; he is a botanical artist whose canvas is the genetic code of the plant itself. The story begins in the 70s, deep in the lush, misty backdrop of Oregon. While others were focused on yield, DJ was obsessed with nuance, working with exotic landrace genetics, specifically Highland Thai, Purple Thai, Afghani. He spent decades meticulously selecting for specific transcendent experience. It was here in the Pacific Northwest that he conjured up the blue family, the crown jewel of which is the renowned blueberry. With its distinct sweet berry aroma and euphoric anti-anxiety effect, blueberry wasn't just a new strain, it was a paradigm shift in flavor profiles. However, as the war on drugs intensified in the US, the survival of these unique genetics were threatened. In the 1990s, DJ made a pivotal journey to Europe, collaborating with Dutch seed banks like Sagamartha and Dutch Passion. This migration didn't just preserve his work, it introduced Blue to the global market, connecting their place in the pantheon of elite, cementing their place in the pantheon of elite genetics. Yet DJ Short's legacy extends beyond genetics. He's a true pioneer of regenerative agriculture. Long before living soil was a buzzword, he was preaching the gospel of organic methodology, teaching the full expression of the plant's terpenes and flavonoids can only be unlocked through a symbiotic relationship with the earth and the soil.
Sure.
Today, we honor a man who prioritized quality over quantity, flavor over potency, a counterculture icon, and biological visionary, Mr. DJ Short.
Well, thank you. That's quite the introduction. Appreciate it, and sounds accurate to me. So, thank you.
You're so welcome. Is there anything sort of your son being a second generation breeder, quite literally second generation genetics? Is that correct?
Well, yeah, and technically it could be third or fourth, as my great grandmother was also an herbalist. She got busted growing pot in the city of Detroit in 1938. I never met her, but the legend of her legacy came to me through the family, especially after they knew what I was up to. So, oh, that's what your great grandmother did.
Interesting. Coming from the old country, as I understand, Romania, during a dark period in world politics, to say the least. Did she bring genetics from the old world, from the Caucasus, or where did they, the region?
There was this interesting mint that I actually have growing here now, who in a return visit to the area, which was Marlette, Michigan. If you're Michigan, it's, you know, in the middle of the thumb up here. Um, and she knew where their camps used to be and where her grandmother had grown some of this stuff, and she brought some back. She told me that she heard that her grandmother had brought these things over, smuggled them in her bosom, is how she put it. I know with mint, it's usually rootstock is all you need, a little bit of rootstock to get things going. It's a very unique mint. It's like a cross between peppermint and spearmint, and it grows like wild. You know, there wasn't a direct connection. My mother didn't get it from her grandmother. She went back to the place that she knew that they camped and found it growing there, and it resembled, she said, yes, this is what I remember it to be. So I'm relatively certain that's what it was. But as far as her cannabis genetics, back then, I mean, pretty much everything anybody did domestically was some kind of sativa. A lot of things, you know, came up through the Caribbean that way. And her being in Michigan, I'm curious if I can find evidence of that bust. Her her family name, I think, was Berta, Barta. The Romanian was Biento, Biento, and I think that my mother mentioning her maiden name was Melch. So somewhere there may be a record, an indicator of that bust, which might have more information on that. But I don't know if she brought cannabis genetics or not, but I do know that she brought other botanical genetics from the old country.
Yeah, I've seen more and more travelers who are trying to bring seed stock of from their native country into, you know, through ports of entry, and they're, you know, it's just not permitted whatsoever these days for good reason, I understand,
Huh.
but it wasn't so regulated
Some of the
in
people
that day.
in the legal situation might be able to get some kind of a waiver or some kind of a customs. You know, if you have a cannabis company and you're going, I think Ed Rosenthal, I just saw recently, is posting on Facebook and Instagram. He's over in Nepal right now. He's there with his camera and he says collecting genetics. They're out there. I'm certain they are. Unfortunately, as we all have learned that, you know, the dominating nature of capitalism tends to lean towards other, you know, means of,
Isms?
yeah, and the good stuff. It takes a while for these things to shine through. It, it, it will eventually. It's like wine. It's like anything else. You don't have to be an expert, right, with wine to know what you like. And we get fed all this hype about stuff, you know, just right now coming out of the whole high cannabinoid ratio, high THC percentages, and people are learning that that's, you know, not necessarily the ticket to a good ride. It's a ticket to a potent ride. But when people finally get that opportunity to, you know, this is the one that got me really stoned, but this one made me feel good. You know, so over time, people they figure that out and they'll gravitate, I think, towards what they like, what they desire. So we're dealing with this 100 years of prohibition still. You know,
Yes.
there's it. My I would say argument, my rebuttal in this debate with anyone that thinks, you know, they have a dog in the fight is this: it's the safest substance known to human beings. And I qualify that. I don't have to. You can qualify that for me. Name something safer, right? The water, no, you can drink enough water to kill yourself. This is
Or
the
yeah,
only thing, one of the few things, you know, I think maybe there's a couple psychedelics, mushrooms and cactus may do the same thing, where you eat an amount that inebriates you to the point where you can't function, but that inebriation is completely non-toxic, and you're going to live through it, even though, we've all been there. Too many edibles, it's like, oh, Jesus help me, get me out. I'm dying, I'm dying. The whole ego death and all that wonderful stuff that goes with psychedelics. So yeah, that's their.
I agree 100% that the experience doesn't have to be to the maximum to have an experience. And that is where I think the ego, if you will, people see a big number and they're just like, that one. They point their finger like a automaton and then move on. Where, 40 years ago or and longer, you've been diverging from that path, looking for the much like some of us younger folks have realized, finding the path less traveled, the rare, more nuanced um, buds, if you will,
Yeah,
the buzz is
I
what
can
we're
tell
looking for.
I can tell you from firsthand experience that the best herbs, or all the best herbs I ever smoked, those tropical sativa, were testing at 7% THC. Okay. Uh, I
There was
would
a
take,
lot going on.
yeah, yeah, and I would take that gladly. I would pay 10 times whatever, shelf price is right now for what's there to get some of this back, which again is another hope for the future, is that we will get to import time. Uh, and at that, then hopefully people can see, oh, Highland Oaxacan gold. Oh my, this isn't skunk, you know.
And this is getting back to the sun angle and the DLI.
Sure, sure. Whatever those things are. I mean, if that's your gig, and you want to do that side, great. Me, it's how does it make me feel?
Right.
And
Right.
out later on, well, what was different about this? Is an interesting uh, idea that's been bandied about, and I'd like to support at some point in time, would be doing a cup, and let's, with just one strain, say my blueberry, the F4 blueberry clone, that all of the participants in this cup would get, give them adequate time, at least a year, preferably 2 or 3, to get a nice cure time in on that. Put those all out there, then bring it, have your contest, and every, judges sample it. I'm not a competitive person, so I really don't care about winning. I would just like the information, and so we would sit there, and it's the same herb, it's from the same plant, and if we could get it diverse enough, I mean, somebody could grow that in Oaxaca, and somebody could grow that in Africa and Hawaii, and
Brisbane.
and all these other places, and then come together, and then you'll see, okay, well, this is a little more up, this is a little more down, this is more potent, and then you start to parse out, well, what are the differences? What were the differences in the environments for all of these things, so that we can start plugging together those.
The scientific algorithm that makes things unique.
Sure, cause and effect,
Mhm.
and getting that down. We're a little ways to go yet. This last 10 years legalization, and this whole, merry-go-round of capitalism, with the goal being grabbing the ring. Okay, have we done that enough yet? People are finding out, it's so fun to watch these investments. These people put all this money into this, thinking that they're going to make, get rich quick, and so, whoops, sorry. The story I like to share, this one is Northern California. I think it was the big, oh, huge $300 million, 250, $300 million invested into this huge, I don't know, it was a 40-acre, 160-acre, covered in greenhouses, all of this grow. They went belly up, they went bankrupt. And all that property ends up selling, getting auctioned off at pennies on the dollar, which makes me question whether or not the whole fiasco was planned that way from the start. Because then the final people who got into this operation, instead of paying 250 million for this whole thing, paid like 30 million. You know,
Interesting how that worked out.
yeah. Well, it's just that this is what's been going on for thousands of years, and I'm sick and tired of it myself. Where's the alternative? And that's the problem with me with capitalism, is that there's no alternative. It's mandatory,
It
right?
is.
Worldwide. Yeah, even little naked tribes running around, damn it, they got to have like change in their pocket now. No,
And
it's ridiculous, and it'll break at some point, and we'll hopefully figure it out. Fingers crossed. Always hope.
absolutely.
I call myself, I'm a pessimistic optimist. Things will get better. They always do. With human beings, though, they just sort of have to get worse first. It's how
It
we
seems
live.
that that's the pattern.
Yeah.
With, you know, kind of, I think over a period of time, forget a lot of those things or lose touch with that, and then it comes roaring back.
Yeah. Live and learn. So
Yep.
that's what, I'm sitting and waiting and watching. It's all I've been doing. It's why I haven't been that involved. I've got right now, all I'm really interested in are my Blueberry and Flow. They're the original mother and father cuts. Blueberry and the mother and father from Blueberry, 1998. Flow was sprouted in 93. They're getting on. Where I'm trying to, Blueberry has been tissue cultured. We'll see if it's enough. You gotta wait and see on these things, and then hopefully Flow as well. And then as far as the various crosses, that's great for Josh, Blue Star, and JD at Second Generation. They gives them something to do, and it's not worth it for me. I'd rather have them do it, and I'm just gonna focus on the Blueberry and the Flow for right now.
Absolutely.
More's coming. I always, my mantra in these things is, the best is yet to come. As far as when, hopefully it's while I'm still drawing breath, but either way, it doesn't matter to me. Is get the job done.
Yeah, yeah. So, the with that in mind, you know, uh, Josh, sent me an email, and kind of Josh Blue Star Seed Company, now in Michigan, formerly here in Oregon. Um, you guys have had a relationship for some time. He's JD's age, I'd imagine.
Mhm.
Um, anyway, he is originally who I spoke with regarding a auction pack of seeds I had seen. He got, he's like, well, he threw you under the bus to get on this FCP broadcast, I guess. He's too busy. And so we really, we're pulling you out from under the bus and you're going to be the driver. We really appreciate you being here today. And Josh's work with the Blueberry has really gone forward.
Yeah.
Could you speak to some of his work, or I can pull up, what he wrote to me, but you're more familiar with it, I'm sure, than most people.
Sure. I mean, from my perspective, he's got the space and the time right now, so he dedicated it. He saw the value in this. He appreciates and respects who I am, what I've done. And what sold me on Josh was his work, right? I got some hash from him, and that's all it took. So, okay, it's this, yep, proof is in the pudding, and the pudding was there. And so we've had a good relationship since. I've had no problem supplying him with whatever, and he's run with everything and come up with these great things. I know with the Blueberry Feminize project, it was probably due to the age of that clone. Couldn't get enough. I think he was getting enough pollen, but couldn't make enough seeds
Hmm.
with great S1. And so what he did was took the S1 and feminized that, and then was able to get enough pollen and enough seed. And the main thing, from my perspective, is whatever's getting released. I'm not terribly concerned about the process of getting it there, providing it does what it's supposed to do. And the samples that from the S1 they, are blueberry, and there's the market's demanding that whole feminized aspect. So I gave it, said, yeah, let's do this, and he's been running with it. He's got a bunch of other things going on in that fem line as well, and he's good. He pays attention to detail. He's on his game, and yeah, it's been really good. I'm happy and quite pleased to be working with Josh.
Excellent, excellent. I know that he's, like, been, I was in Portland when Rec came, and and since I've moved out to the country. So I was familiar with the his work in the dispensaries and whatnot up there. But since I'm moved to the sticks, I'm able to do my own thing, and I don't really. I go to the dispensaries to see if there's anyone that's doing the right thing, or I there's certain dispensaries here in Oregon that kind of tailor to the craft, the smaller grow,
Mm.
which I've found I can send people, or if they're passing through these little, you know, parts of town like Medford, I'll have them make a stop for me because I know that the herbsman in Medford looks after people, and they get what we're looking for. We being the guys that know, who want a little bit more experience and palate, really want the entourage, something that you've been talking about for longer than anyone that I know of. In your book, that's not, the material isn't outdated whatsoever. It's a brilliant book. I recommend anyone out there go on your favorite um, media outlet, and they will have it there, I'm sure. I was able to find mine. I got a digital copy, I'll admit, but it goes into just the basics. There it is. Oh, it's shiny.
Then
Yeah, yeah. It probably smells like a new book, eh?
oh yeah, it's been there for.
Yeah. The the insights in the book are practical today, and then you get into like the ethos behind all the going back to your earliest days and your regressive breeding practices, and kind of taking the road less traveled. I don't know the breeding practices of your contemporaries, and how you differ, but um, I understand the data that you guys were all receiving and how that has influenced things over the last, since I've been a patient and a consumer for the last 30 years.
Yeah, my methodology has always been the same, and that is based on the effect of the finished product. I mean, in essence, my whole entering this thing, I had no real inkling to be famous or to do all this stuff. I wanted good herb. Okay, I knew we all did. We knew when you found something good that you needed to invest in it when it showed up. When the sativas and the import stuff was coming in, all that mafia load Colombian, which was the bulk of the market. Every now and then, in between the cracks of that, would come some of this better, higher end stuff. And I've said before, the the supply chain. How did I deal with that? A couple of things. Honoring the whole omerta thing. Keeping your mouth shut, paying your bills on time, those kind of things. But the final thing that I think really saved me and took me way up the food chain in terms of what was available. I would always save when I got something that I liked that was special, that was head and shoulders above. I would save some of it. I just don't smoke it all, keep some. And you'd be at the party and you'd meet the person, and that was the in where they would smoke what they had good with them. And then I said, oh, here, we'll try some of this. And it was like, oh man, you got that. And then you make the connection. And then, when they get something special in, you're high on their list. They give you a call. Hey, some of this gold came in, and I think you might be interested in this. And so it works that way. Um, and satisfying my palate, satisfying my head, my heart, whatever. The story I give about blueberry, when people say, well, how did you come up with a blueberry? And I finally whittled it down to it's the one that best helped me heal, right? That helped me function, made me feel good, balanced, that kind of stuff. So, as far as a breeding regime, you're not going to know which plant is the best until 6 months after you harvest it, right? So we take clones, we keep the clones going. There's that discipline and that work of keeping that going. And sometimes some plants just wouldn't clone from seed. And those things, well, they're lost. It's in your mind. You remember it. That's, oh, okay, I'll keep my eye out for that again. But when you got them all cloned, you finish it up. 6 months later, you do that test and you go, oh, it's this one. It's this number 6 or whatever it was in the thing. Then you've got that clone, and then you just grow a whole bunch of that to verify that in a commercial sense, can you reproduce this experience? Most of the time you can. And then it's go from there. So it takes a long time, right? And I think that nowadays most people, they're in a hurry. One of the pieces of advice I've been giving a lot to contemporary breeders, cannabis breeders this day is don't fall in love with the plant in the room. Very important. I mean, that you bias. You have a bias as soon as you look at that thick stem
It
purple.
gets in your head.
Yeah, exactly. And you want it. You want it to be the best, right? So you're going to have a biased opinion about it. And this really needs to be blind, double blind in the studies as best you can. Back in the day, for me, we called it was the jar test, right? So I have that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all those plants I was testing. I got the bud in a jar. Which jar empties first? Which one am I? Oh, this one,
I
right?
do that. I do that myself.
Yeah, that's the trick. That's how it works. Same thing, at a party. Take the 6 jars to a party, and then people are whoop whoop, and then if they, focus in on one, and that jar empties, there's your indication. It's popular in the group.
I Yeah, I had a pheno that came along this year that is ammonia cat piss, which is I find oddly just it puts me in the right place,
Sure.
and it's amazing, and my brother is in love with it, so it's like even better. Like if I can give him what he needs, the whole world, as far as I'm concerned, the whole world is a better place.
Exactly.
It's
Exactly.
a
With
good.
good herb. I made this analogy too. I saw this phenomenon. 1978. Okay, 1978. There was more good herb available in my experience in 1978 than at any other time. It sort of all came to a head. All of the growers, the smugglers, they got their act together, and then boom. Um, Also, during that time, that was the most politically advanced time. There were, I believe, during that period, 11 states that had somewhat decriminalized, right? Were at least addressing their laws. And I equate that political forward motion to there being so much good herb available. It motivates people, it clears your head, helps you think, and away it goes. the last good herb was about 1982. I know the people who were bringing it in, they got busted in 81. And they were part of the Brotherhood, but not directly. They were kind of taking it one level further. They were here in Oregon, Portland and Eugene. Matter of fact, one of their members has passed away a couple months ago. And they, had import schemes going, say, with the hash. So you got the people going to Afghanistan and Pakistan and Lebanon and these other places. So the word went out, okay, while you're getting a hash, do us a favor, get some seeds. And so along with the hash, they brought some seeds. Now this last herb I'm talking about specifically was 1982. Well, it was growing in 1980 and 81. There were still residual packs coming in 1982. But like I said, they got busted in 81. They took Lebanese upper mountain hash seed and they grew it in Guerrero, Mexico. And they called it Lum. It was Lebanese Upper Mountain, LUM is what that stood for. And it was this green, light green, heavily seeded,
Guerrero is a mountainous area in the Sierra or the Occidental. It's just for those folks who don't know.
Okay, yeah, it's near Oaxaca and that whole Michoacan.
Yeah,
same area. So yeah, and it was just bright. You smoked it and you smiled and put you in a good mood. And we have nowadays, you go into a dispensary, you can get bits and pieces of what I'm talking about, this stuff for these great sativas, but you can't, the whole entourage, that whole broad experience just isn't in the herb we're producing. Sometimes, like for myself, that's what I was trying to do with Blueberry and Flow, was replicate. And in honesty, they didn't. Some of it's there, like, oh yeah, that's the good part, but it wasn't the whole thing. So what I do is blend some Blueberry and Flow together. It gets me a little closer. See, so I can broaden that out a little bit. In these interviews, I hate to dissuade people, or we will never in this country, except for maybe Hawaii, produce the great sativa. We don't have the environment. It's not. But what we can do here is the same thing that they do in Afghanistan and Morocco. We can make great hash. And so I think that's the trick. We really should be focusing on concentrate in terms of quality. And when the day comes and entrepreneurs are such that we can go to the tropics and redo this, the Lebanese Upper Mountain, let's go get the Lebanese seeds, go grow it in Guerrero, import it, and then, people will see what I'm talking about now. I'm not crazy, I swear.
You're taking it back to the Oaxaca, the Guerrero, the Oaxacan mountain highland, the Lum, as you call it, and blend. Not necessarily. Again, I'm not a breeder. I did let some plants pollinate some females, but that was and it was intentional. But then I realized like the complexity and like the honesty of a breeding project, and I totally realized that this isn't it. This is something different, and don't advertise it as anything else, and educate myself. And
Sure.
One of the things I've been doing lately, as you said, is finding those notes in different flowers, and then rolling a cone that has two different flowers in it, and it's it takes me back to more of the
Yep.
the 90s, that era when I was first medicating. And but you're right that finding those notes in the dispensary or in different flowers, it's not a symphony. And creating a symphony is, it's not cookies. Cookies was not a land race.
Right.
And, what the work that you've done, is, leans on those land races to have produced the blueberry and the float.
And in all honesty, I'm not, lab coat wearing technician kind of guy. We're talking numbers, to be able to grow out sufficient numbers and then to have that palate to recognize when you stumble on it. And then that patience to wait, for that thing to show itself. Yeah, it's not rocket science. It really isn't, but it is numbers. You definitely want to, and the numbers are important. Like F1s and F3s, F2s, true F2s aren't that important because they're just a hybrid. They're going to be uniform. When you cross those two F2s, then you get the diversity in your, or excuse me, you cross the two F1s, you get the diversity in the F2s. P1s are that's the term. Let me back up here.
The
P1,
parent generation?
that parent generation, you want high numbers in that. F1 generation, it doesn't matter because they're all uniform. You just want to cross any two of those. Then in the F3 generation, the numbers are important again because you're seeing this great diversity. And it's that whole transgressive segregation concept. I saw notes there. To wrap our head around it, I like to use dog breeding. If it's possible to cross, you take two things that are very different in a dog world, the Great Dane and the Chihuahua, right? You got this big thing, this little thing, and the joke is, the Great Dane better be the mother in this experiment. And then that's your P1 generation is the Great Dane and the Chihuahua. They're going to cross, they're going to make these uniform, in between kind of boxer pit bull looking, maybe some difference in color, but their size and shape are going to be relatively uniform in that F1 generation. And then you take two dogs in that F1 generation, those similar hybrid dogs, cross them, and theoretically you should then see in the F2 generation and beyond dogs that are both bigger than the original Great Dane and smaller than the original Chihuahua. So you see things beyond the parameters of what you started with when you use those very different things as your starting material. Now, when I did that, I can't in honesty say that, oh, this is, this is what I'm doing. It just happened, man. And I was fortunate. I kept good notes. And this was before Robert Clark's Marijuana Botany came out. So when that finally happened, I could look at it and go, oh, that's what I did. So just again, in honesty, there wasn't a scientific intent. I'm greedily trying to please my own head,
Uh-huh.
and that was the route, through which I did that, and it worked out. You get the input from other people that agree. Parties are great for that. Pass the bowl around, and then take note. What was the mood of the party before you smoking up the room, and then what was the mood after? And I saw herbs that can both make a party and ruin a party.
I, I'm glad, that's a funny thing that ruining a party. I hadn't thought of that before. I just thought of,
Paranoid
you
people, especially doing too much acid or mushrooms, and you smoke a paranoid herb, and then it becomes, they're after me, and it gets, yeah, sketchy.
I guess, yeah, cross-fading the sacred plants. Well, we like to use vernacular that might not get copyright strikes or whatever. Don't even want to bring that up. With the smoking for the head and some of your going back to not everybody knows or has had to deal with the commercial brick and figuring out whether the seed or the herb itself was like dipped in gasoline or diesel or irradiated, whatever it took to keep the seeded weed from becoming um, basically killing those genetics so that they don't cross borders and lose market share. Again, capitalism, they want to keep their market, so they aren't trying to give out the seed.
Sure, but the bulk mafia loads, who cares? You know, they did us a favor.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and you're, back in with those loads that came with, 50% seeds or 60, 70% seed by weight. Um, and I think of it was Alphabets, and Sugar Crisp, both cereals, who's put out the terrarium that you speak of in your book.
Yeah, yeah.
And we all have um, seed popping tech today that is simple paper towel or soak it in water. But for someone that in your generation who was having to break out the frisbee to separate the wheat from the chaff, and I remember in those days eating kernels that my uncles would give us because hemp kernels are good for you, and we were eating a lot of hemp kernels,
Cool.
quote unquote hemp kernels. Can you alliterate a bit more on that experience of dealing with 70% weight, seed weight by volume, and cracking the code?
Yeah, again, if it's the huge load and the herb just wasn't up to snuff, then which most of the bulk loads were, and then it really didn't make a difference. It was the smaller loads, it was the brotherhood loads that the seed came from that we were interested in, and they weren't irradiating and doing all these other things. Story I got was that someone from the Brotherhood had gone down to Mexico with this Sears Kenmore trash compactor, right? That they were going to start using to make the bricks with. Now, prior to that, it was really high pressure. I mean, they were bricks. A kilo was the size of a brick, and you would have to break that up. Some people put it over steam and let it,
Yeah, steaming it.
that way, breaking up. But the Brotherhood loads, the kilo was more the size of a chair cushion. It was bigger. There was a little more airspace in there, and something India, people in India know this. I think something to do with the curing process and pressure on the bud. In India, they lay the plants out in the field and they have these giant rocks that they roll on top of the plants on the ground and let them sit there with this pressure for a bit. And then the rock rolls on. And so something to do with that pressure helped with the quality of the cannabinoids and the terpenes, in my opinion, anyhow. And that was the difference. Um, so the bud was a little fluffier. It wasn't that powdery. It wasn't as seedy either. Seeds were an issue back in the day. People, you talk about the frisbee. It was also the double album cover. You open it
Sure.
up, catch them in the rib there, and pull them out. And certain people, that were frugal, capitalist minded, would collect up all their seeds and take them back to the dealer and I want my weed money back. No, it didn't work that way. I'm sorry. The seeds went along with it, and you had to separate stuff out. And I mean, $10 for a bag this deep bag is it's what.
Can't complain.
Yeah, you can't complain. One of the big pricing differences was Hawaiian. When Hawaiian showed up, and it was the $10 a gram, 270 or 280 an ounce.
Woo!
Same with Thai stick. When the first Thai stick, that was its going rate. But despite the sticker shock, once you smoke that stuff, it didn't matter. Price did not matter.
Yeah.
It's-
It took you places that, back then it was to the bank. There were not a lot of ATMs.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, there weren't.
Like all these bank withdrawals.
So
So
did did I answer the question? I always go off on tangents, and
I
you,
I think you did answer the question as far as, the cracking the code, finally getting the seed German, a terrarium so that you could actually, you, as I read in the book, you put a bud,
whole
a,
book.
just stick a whole bud in there and get it wet.
Yep.
And that genius. I mean,
And
you won't hurt anything if you do that. Why
they
not?
no, no, and a whole bunch of the little tails came out. I was pretty amazed, and I'm pretty sure that that herb, it was bought in the Detroit area as Hawaiian, but I'm relatively certain it was either Northern California or Oregon because that was what was going on back then. The local stuff from West Coast that was green, more green, was going to the East Coast and being sold as Hawaiian at a much higher price. But the high was there, it was a bit different.
What would you say? The green, the Pacific Northwest green, where it was like an indica, something that they could finish early,
No, there
etc.
was still more sativas. The indicas didn't show up until 78, 79.
Okay,
And
so
then
we're still talking about the time before you came to Eugene.
yes, yes, the
Okay,
little sprout tube was still in Detroit. I was still in my teens.
okay, okay. So,
There,
and
there
you,
was a couple of random. There was a sprout between the patio cracks in the dirt when we were out there smoking, and we would throw our roaches or whatever the stuff on the ground. Well, this one plant came up, and it had gotten fourth node about yay tall, and someone goes, "There's a pot plant." I was, "Whoa, shit!" And so of course you got the spoon and the dirt, and yeah, and the whole back then there wasn't garden shops. You could not buy a bag of soil. You couldn't buy pots to put your plants in. I had to get waste paper baskets, these metal college room waste paper baskets, oval shape, and then take a can opener and open a little
yeah,
triangle along the bottom for drainage, and would use the gravel from the driveway in the bottom for drainage, and it was just dirt from the backyard.
it's that's funny. Um I use just when I moved into this place, I not put gravel from the. I went down to the where the driveway meets the county road, scooped up a bunch of gravel for drainage. Just it is if you're going to grow in pot, you need drainage.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It, that just reminds me of my first you know um, soil building experience and building a pot. So getting the seeds germinated. Once you solve that trick, it kind of opened up Pandora's box as far as
Yeah. I
the
mean,
potential.
I was biting, chomping at the bit, man. It's
And
like,
you
these grow from seeds? You can go,
come
whoa,
from
it's
and you
amazing.
went to Eugene to go to school, and
Well,
you know, and just immerse yourself in the culture.
yeah, in Eugene,
Did you come to Eugene to um in the what years did you when you came out west? What
70 was October of 78 that I moved to Eugene from Detroit.
okay. And at that point, were you going there for your education or for the social experiment that had happened that had been going on there for quite a while?
Yeah, both. Well, for the social experiment, I mean, just to get somewhere that was friendlier territory, and then once established, the opportunity, for the community college and the university there, of course, uh, take advantage of that as well. Yeah, there was a lot going on.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Um, as I was, at that time, I think my folks, we had gone to Alaska because of that. The economy was in the late 70s was pretty terrible. and we ended up in Alaska. My dad chasing a job, um, and we were back in '79, but
Huh.
it lasted for a couple of years. And
That was Eugene?
no, I for myself, I live halfway between Portland and Eugene,
Okay.
in the in the valley up on the hill. Overlook the valley. It's really an idyllic location if you like the outdoors.
Mhm.
Head east or west, and you get as much as you can get. And
Sure.
I get a sunrise over the Cascades every day of the year. So I'm high enough in elevation. It's a great terroir. We get it. We were in 2024. The neighbors put together an AVA because everything here is wine grapes. I'm sure you can relate. There's some vineyards over in your side of the Cascades. Um, but I'm not. I'm a little sour about it, but I got my own sour to um, help my tears get over my tears.
Yeah, but so I got there to Eugene. I had 3 kids. I was relatively dirt poor, but enough to get by. On my first job was as a doorman at a rock and roll lounge in Eugene. It was called The Place. Uh,
Place.
and like, I mean, Patti Smith, Talking Heads, uh, played there. It was quite the venue. And as a result, I connected in the community more, which led me to my second job, which was fighting forest fires with a ragtag band of gypsy hippie warriors called Skookum Reforestation. And that started in 1979. And then through the firefighting, which was the tree planters. And the tree planters, in terms of the underground and the cannabis in the area, the tree planters are the portal.
Yeah,
I
you're speaking my language, being
they
an Oregonian.
their job, tree planting, they were out in the woods. They knew the spots. They had reason to be out there. They knew the terra. Uh, and then fighting forest fires, we found these spots because when you're fighting fires, you end up in places that people just normally would not end up in back in the wilderness. And then make note that, oh, this is late August and this is down in this hidden little gully here with great sunshine and there's a creek running. And so, and we had dug a trail going in there, so getting back was, and I know a lot of people took advantage of that. And then you get back, and it's, well, this is a perfect growth spot,
Mhm.
right? And you find it fighting forest fires because that's your reason to be out in the woods in late August and September to see where the water is. And once you got the water, there you go.
It
Uh,
pays pretty good too.
Yeah, yeah. The other, like, well, they're in the valley. My first plants I grew were in the River Road area, and the water table on the Willamette River, it fluctuates, but it can be pretty high. And I think that one year that my plant, come about July, it got a taproot down to the water table, and you see they hit it, and then they just go,
Ooh,
yeah,
yes,
right,
yes.
6 inches of growth in a day all the way around this plant. Um,
There's the, I know people that do that here in the county,
sure.
that are
And
on they're down on the flatlands.
I think it's hit or miss. Some years are better than others in that regard. But the other thing that I've ran into people that were doing swamp growing, and you would go into these watersheds, these water places, swamps, and it, in essence, was a truck tire tube or like 3 truck tire tubes that were last together so they stand up with a mesh in between them that then was filled with soil that was then floated out into the marsh. Which, if it was on private land, I mean, who goes in a marsh on private land? Maybe clear a little trees out to get the sun good, but oh, that that proved beneficial. A few issues with, mold and mildew in the swamp, but um, the year was good and it wasn't too wet. The swamp produced.
Yeah, there's a lot of that swampiness there and around Eugene, Springfield area. If you get off the road, off the main tracks, there's definitely some Fern Ridge, Long Tom River. It's a thing. And then you go on the other side of the hill toward Veneta and Drain. It's a different happening there as
Oh yeah.
well.
Yep.
Or you go over the other hill toward Mohawk. That's another micro environment that's got a great water source. But you were in Eugene, like when the down to earth fertilizers first started,
Mhm.
the Wootens. Were you working with, or you know, was it periphery? Were you hand in glove at that time, or
No.
were they were still kind of their own operations?
Oh,
You were coming at it at a different angle, more as a father trying to provide for the family, etc.
yeah, they were a resource, and their original store was actually in Sundance Foods, down on, was that 24th or 26th in Hilliard. And they were, if you're in the front of Sundance looking at it, they were on the right hand side. That was down to earth. In the middle of Sundance, which right now is where their produce department is, that was the Genesis Juice Bar, was right there, and the produce for the store. And then the left side was the store. Um, they, in the beginning, it was pretty limited. The things that they had to offer, and I was going mainly to the big commercial store. Well, in Eugene was Gray's Feed and Seed,
Okay.
6th Street there. Oh, it's across Monroe, somewhere in that neighborhood. Whitaker, it's in the Whitaker neighborhood.
Easier, more easily accessible from where you were at.
Pardon?
Kind of easier to access from your side of town.
Well, yeah. That, and they had more of the things, I was looking for, but again, their stealth was involved, and you couldn't talk about what you were doing. Now, at Gray's Feed and Seed, they had this character that worked in there. This guy liked to joke a lot, and I would go in, and I'm buying these giant bags of perlite and the giant bags of the sphancter moss. And it's obvious, anyone paying attention knows what's going on, but nothing is said. You just, focus, do this whole thing, get your purchase, always in cash, and then off you go. And when I'm going out the door, this joking character, he had this line, and he would say, "Oh, remember now, you can't always make the sunshine, but you can always make the moonshine." Oh shit. Okay. Nice day. Goodbye. I mean,
Yes,
'cause they were the weak link in the chain. They could turn you in.
right.
Any place. Fred Meyer, you go in. Oh, this guy's buying a bunch of pots. When finally the plastic pots came out, and
It's my in my youth, I didn't realize all of the little traps that the federal government and transactions, cash or certain transactions could be scrutinized and lead to the arrest. I don't know in your mind, what was the most common thing that people would be, you know, turned in for, other than having a bad attitude?
showing the wrong people.
Okay.
It you learn the hard way. Nobody sees this. Nobody. Uh, we had rules. There'd be a party or whatever, and it's mostly us, the growers, and we had our, you know, what do you call it, decorum, or when you got to behave a certain way, and you would bring someone who wasn't one of us, and it needed to be pointed out after a while. It's like, look, at this party, don't ask anybody what they do for a living. There was that whole, oh, what do you, and so it was, we never, that question, that was like, if somebody asked you what you did for a living, you knew you're not a grower.
Yeah, yeah, you're on the outside.
Yeah,
It's like Fight Club, and then you're
yeah,
like, "What's
yeah.
that?" Uh-huh.
So there was that, but yeah, that relationships breaking up. Oh, I know a lot of them went down that way. Eh,
And what took you to, as the enforcement increased here in the States, you eventually went to Europe,
mhm.
and can you expand on your how you have, like made the connection and the time and how that all came about?
Yeah, sure. An elder friend, he's a little more than 20 years older than me, my tester, his name's John. Um, he was a mentor in a lot of ways. He recognized my talent. He was involved with this group that was the Brotherhood people and bringing in the various herbs, and he, him and his people would get hold of what I was doing, and they had the wherewithal to sit me down and go, look, you got the knack. You keep doing this, okay? I said, okay, cool. Um, and he had European connections. He had spent a lot of time in Amsterdam. He was a hash smuggler. His country was Norway. He spoke Norwegian, and he would take his family over and they'd do their runs and whatnot. But he knew the scene, and he was my introduction to Amsterdam. Matter of fact, the first time I went with John, and we camped in this campground in the north called Vliegenbos. It was in July. It was a cheap way to go, but July is not the month to go to Amsterdam. You want to go in the spring. Weather was terrible in July, but he, introduced me. He knew Derry from Barney's Seeds. Derry was a hash runner back then, or working with people that were. He had a little coffee shop there. What the hell was it? Barney's Farm, or Barney's was the name of his place. And I gave him seed. I gave Barney seed when I was running through there. To a lot of people, I gave seed to, going through there. And so that was, I was introduced by my tester John, um, and kind of shown the ropes, and then just took it from there. I tried connecting with people. The one I really wanted to meet was Bernard, and I couldn't. I was unable to. And so I ended up at the Hash Museum, where the crew from Sagarmatha and DNA Genetics, Adam and Tony, were working there. And I brought a sample. When I brought herb over, when I brought seeds over, I kept them in the bud, vacuum sealed, so I could tell, they couldn't be counterfeited. Someone couldn't swap them out and go, oh, here's your flow seeds. It's like, no, they were in a bud, and I know exactly. So I was able to smoke some with the people there. Chris Conrad joined in. I remember he was living upstairs at the time, um, and everyone was amazed with the stuff I brought. And I tried connecting with them, and they were, kind of put offish. But I was more comfortable dealing with Americans than with Europeans, but that didn't work out. They just took advantage of me and took my genetics and didn't pay me much. And went over to Dutch Passion, and who, did pay me some, but basically just one day said, oh, nothing lasts forever. Don't take it, don't take it bad. It's only business. I'm not going to pay you anymore. And shit. I tried getting a lawyer there at the time. It was too early. They told me, they go, nope, you're too ahead of your time, buddy. There's nothing we can do for you. So that was that, and it's take it as it comes, to everything in stride. And
Uh-huh.
and keep going. And I got out with my seed collection. I was able to get that all out of there finally. Dutch Passion, I only gave, I never saw the plants that Dutch Passion grew. I only sampled the finished product and was just, okay, that'll work. And then that was the end of my relationship there. Um, Mark Emery had a little bit to do with it. It's Breeder Steve. When I was making Mark Emery introduced me to Hank from Dutch Passion. It was at a cup. What year would this have been? I think it would have been 97, right around then. And I had just left Sagarmatha. What am I going to do? I was kind of lamenting to Mark. We're on the stairwell of the PAX party house. Hank was coming down. I was going up. Mark stops. Hey, Hank, Dan, do you know each other? And he introduced us. And they said, oh, yes, we'll stop by. And we had the meeting up there in the top floor of Dutch Passion. And Mark Emery, Breeder Steve, me, and Hank, sat around. Mark was buying this huge $50,000 worth of seeds with an American Express card. I was inventorying my collection, my seed collection, because I was going to leave some there with Hank to do this work at Dutch Passion. And so it was an interesting meeting. We leave and we went up the street is Mother's coffee shop. It's a coffee shop run by women. And so let's stop in here. The cup is going on. A lot of people wearing their lanyards. And Breeder Steve was doing his own cup for Cannabis Culture magazine that year. So he was sampling all this stuff and he was really busy doing it. I had my seed collection and I had given him some of those buds of the seeded flow, which is what he broke up when he rolled it there in Mother's coffee shop. We smoked a bit. Mark was smoozing with the people, was doing his usual thing. And Breeder Steve smoked that flow, and he's this is the best thing I've smoked at the whole cup. That's why Flow won the Cannabis Culture Cannabis Cup in Europe that year. I'm not thinking it might have been 96. So that was going on. I remember too, the Mother's coffee shop this was before we had vaporizers, and it was the bong set up with the paint strip gun that went in a holder, and you would just hit the button. You'd put your hash in the thing, you'd hit the button, get the vaping done that way. So that went on, and Mark was, make sure you remind me and I'll remind you, don't forget our seeds when we leave the coffee shop. Get stoned and you'd leave things, and off we went. So yeah, that was Europe. It was interesting. Later, Breeder Steve, of course, did his thing. He was in first Lugano, Switzerland, and I visited him there a couple times. Spent a week. That was fun. That was interesting. And then he went over to Barcelona. I made it there, but I didn't meet Breeder Steve there. I met up with Jorge Cervantes in Barcelona, and he took me around, and I met some people and had an interesting time there. But man, there's no place like home. It's nice fantasy. Go out and try and do it, but man, I tucked my tail between my legs and came back here and said, "This is just work here." I went up to for a little while. Then that was another mistake. In essence, is capitalism again. I was on the low end of, I'm from America. What the hell can I do? So I'm kind of stuck under everybody's, well, you got to do this and you got to do that. But it worked out for when it did, and moved on from there. I was disillusioned at how easily Canada folded after Mark Emery got busted, and then Richard Carlesian, Heaven's Stairway got busted, and it just fell apart. And I realized Canada's a big place, right? They got a lot of woodwork to go back and hide in. So when things get rough, that's what happens up in Canada. People just hide. They go back and they wait until another progressive push forward, and then try to get done what they can. And
in between those gaps that there's a lot of patient need and a lot more suffering through the other ills that plague society that the plant really helps.
I mean, then Jesus, I had 2000s. It was around 2009 started. My dad went down. He was in Detroit, and then my mother had a stroke, and she's in Washington State. I was her only caregiver. I'm going over I have kept a journal since 1984, end of 1984, all through 1985.
Brilliant.
And I'm working on my memoirs right now, so I pulled them out, and there was this period of like 7 or 8 years when my parents were sick, and I was doing this whole between California and all the things there, Michigan, Ann Arbor, a little bit more up in Vancouver and Seattle and Portland, and I was not in any one place for longer than 2 weeks for 7 years. And I was helping my parents pass. It was rough dealing with the insurance and the health care in this country, and that was rough, man.
Yeah, being a caregiver is one thing, but when it goes to the next level where you have to deal with the insurance and the bureaucracy that goes along with it, followed
Like,
by a passing and settlement of states,
yeah.
that is a nightmare
Well,
scenario.
I got through that, and now I'm here doing this. Like I said, I'm working on my memoirs. The last couple weeks, I just earnestly, that was my this winter. So I'm going to buckle down, and focus on all this writing, because I have all these different things I got to write about, and it ended up being memoirs because it all comes out in memories. So I'm what am I, 2 weeks now? I think tomorrow. I've been writing every day. I got 35,000 words down.
Congratulations.
Yeah, and I'm only 10 years old in the thing. I've been through a lot, man. It's blowing my mind. We go through life and we're all egocentric, and we all live in that bubble of the Buddhist mantra, everything is as it should be. And just take it for granted that, hey, I'm normal and this is what happens to everybody. Oh man. No, no, no. The whole cannabis thing is, I'm a fringe dweller. See, and that's what brought me to cannabis. And it started when I was a very young child. The Catholic Church that pushed me out that way. I said, okay, you all can have your mainstream. I found the fringe, and I've been living there ever since. I pretend to be from the mainstream in order to get by in life, but no, I'm a fringe dweller, and I know the Terra well.
Excellent.
Mm.
So I want to, in the name of fringe dwellers, I was going to bring up the Brothers Grimm and um, uh, the um, I don't know how to exactly bring it up, but have you talked with anyone or familiar with any their claiming a blueberry product, quote unquote?
Here's all the time. I'm vague. I think I saw it. I don't have time for this crap. I don't know
Okay,
these. I don't work with them. I'm
and
sorry. I know they're
understood.
um it's what can I say? They're that's not ethical what they're doing. They do not have my permission. I'm not involved. I'm not getting paid anything. So someday when the hungry lawyers work this out, I'll turn them loose on this crap. But no, I don't. So maybe you could fill me in.
Well, I might need to bring in our co-producer for today. If you would come out from the shadows and illuminate um the there's a popular show on Canadian television, and one of the characters has got a blueberry strain named after him, and I believe it's the Trailer Park Boys, and
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. I saw the advertising for that. And it's funny because I met Mike Clattenburg, and
okay,
we both claim to be big fans of each other. So if he's involved with this, I don't know if he is or not. Why didn't he contact me?
and yeah, that's Platitudes says
So, hey, well, thanks for bringing that up. I'm glad that I don't
I
have time. I just don't have time for this crap, for the hype and all that BS. It's
being staying relevant is sometimes at your own peril. Your what you hold most valuable, your health and your wellness, your peace of mind. Um, when people are trying to, I guess, carve away something that is unique and claim it as their own to climb the ladder in a capitalist manner, it's very telling of the society we live in.
sure. And
And
it's telling of the people that are doing the unethical things. This is not the first time. This,
yes, sir.
this has happened in my so many times. There was a company in Europe and they were selling seeds and they were bragging. I was looking on the boards and oh, DJ's a good friend of mine. And finally, I got to the point where I was comfortable enough to post on these things. And I chimed in one day and I said, I'm sorry, have we met? Do I know you? They were out of business the next day. All right. So this little talk you and me are having right here is going to get out, you know.
Yes.
And, hey,
I was
brothers,
trying not to overhype that point.
some money. Brothers Grimm owes me some money. All these people, they owe Dutch Passion owes me money. Sagarmada owes me money. All right. So I thank God I don't give a shit about money. I really don't. I think it's one of the dumbest ideas we came up with. Valuing a token. Come on. And now we got this crypto, and it's still money. It's BS. Can't we? Are we not adult enough yet to figure out a way to do life without that? And again, this whole concept of capitalism is mandatory. Where is the alternative? What about the people that want nothing to do with money? What about the people who want to have a kid and they don't want a birth certificate and they don't want a social security number? Where's life for these people in this
And
capitalist world? It doesn't exist. All right?
no, true libertarianism is not freedom in the
No,
United States.
it isn't. It isn't. So I don't know. If we can come up with some alternative, I mean, I think these things all the time is kind of what I'm writing about, and it's basic. What the human needs are so basic, and the list is not long. Number one, clean air to breathe, right? And that just happens. You keep it clean. There it is. It's all around you. Number two, clean water to drink. And that it either comes out of the sky or out of the ground. How cool is that? Clean food to eat, same thing, out of the ground with the clean water and the clean air. A shelter from the elements, some kind of cloth to put over the body to protect it. This stuff doesn't cost a lot of money. It's so cheap, it's pathetic. All right. I mean, one space shot would pay for this for all the people that would want this alternative, right? But oh no, the
Absolutely.
can't exist. And why can the alternative exist? Because everybody would go there. Because capitalism is the stupidest. We're monkeys. It's monkey. It's a monkey idea. And
It,
look at studies when they gave monkeys all these bananas and what did they do with them? It was prostitution and holding it over the ones that don't have. And I don't care. Look, play the game. That's fine. Have your monetized token, but there has to be an alternative for the people that don't want that. All the tribal people that had to endure this rude intrusion into their worlds and their lives. And
yeah, I think of the Longhouse of the Pacific Northwest. You know how I was educated as a young man
cool,
living in Alaska and here. Um,
nice.
it's the ceremonies and the people, the tribes that have inhabited the Pacific Northwest for 20, 40,000 years, depending on who you believe, 80,000 years. New studies have shown, there's been folks foraging here and finding a way to coexist with people on the other side of the country. from, the Florida and the Northeast. There's artifacts that have been found in these areas. So, there, and again, with the haves and the have-nots and um, the, yeah, I don't want to get too much off subject, but there is definitely a space for people who are like-minded to congregate under one roof.
Sure. In my opinion, the tribes are far advanced compared to settlers. We came in with these ideas and whatnot, but they have been here for that, what, 20,000 years. You know, white people have only been on the earth for about 8,000 years. And these people have been here in peace, in harmony with the land. So that's why I say, maybe
Barter and trade.
there's not indoor plumbing. There's not the wheel. They didn't need the wheel. They found a life that could be lived that didn't need the wheel. And it boggles my mind because they had pyramids, right? But no wheel. Or maybe there was and it went away. So I think what happened was, then there's these stories now we're getting out that there were these great cities. Many of them were Mayan and Incan, millions of people that got out of hand. The people, greed, whatever, the people in control took too much control, and the people said, I'm out of here. They left, right? And I think when they left, they took a lot of the knowledge with them. And it was just back to, screw it. All I need is a damn teepee and this bow and this arrow and this digging stick, and I'm fine. Life is beautiful, you know? And we may all be coming back around to that way again. There's a nuclear war. They say World War III is going to be fought with sticks and stones. World War IV, rather, we're back to the Stone Age or whatever. Okay, cool.
There's the more, the great, being from the Pacific Northwest, we talked about the um, floods that shaped the Columbia Gorge, and learning that it wasn't just like one flood; it was thousands of floods, and they had thousands of lava flows, and time happens over. But the and this is again, I'm not an anthropologist, but the late dire, the die off that happened in the last 80,000 years, later Dryas, I believe,
Hmm.
is, there's a lot of compelling evidence that there was a bit of a reset, um, at some point. And it's, the chances of, we all know, I think we should all grab onto our, pearls and realize that we're not going to be here forever.
This is true. And I gotta take a little break. I gotta go do a bathroom break. I'll be back a couple minutes here.
No problem.
Oh, off we go.
So, chat box. I pushed a button and you guys all went away on the big screen about 20 minutes into the interview. Sorry about that. Other than, things I've touched on, what would you guys like to, questions? Put a question mark up, a big red one. If you got a question for DJ or, you'd like him to address. He's been doing this for more than most of us have been alive. And, I appreciate you all being here today, taking time out of your busy new year. Um, what kind of New Year's resolutions are floating through the chat? And if it's to stop smoking weed, you're in the wrong. This is not the podcast for you, or maybe it is. Welcome to you too. Be sure and push the like and share this video with some friends who might appreciate the history lesson we're getting today. And not only the history lesson, but the fact that you don't have to take a mind blowing amount of THC to get medicated in a way that's going to make your day better. Most of us in the Future Cannabis Project community have realized this and are kind of going back to the land when it comes to the potency question. And, the total cannabinoid production is definitely relevant, but it's where those cannabinoids are coming from and those odors and aromas that we find so therapeutic. That's where the money's at, in my opinion. And most of our audiences have a like mind when it's finding these lesser cannabinoids and terpenes that just tickle your fancy.
There's one thing I can add onto that. Like this picture here is my cheap little representation of a glandular stalk trichome, right? You got the stalk and you've got the membrane and you've got stuff on the inside there, surface of the leaf right here. It's my opinion that that structure was bred in antiquity strictly for hash production in non-tropical zones like Morocco and Afghanistan. And that there is this other phenomenon going on. So there was that one. And then what I have witnessed and on my more sativa plants is this phenomenon where this here is a cystolithic hair. Okay. And this is supposed to represent this oil that's leaking right out of the hair. So here's the surface of the leaf. You've got one of these big, long, clear hairs coming up, and look for this liquid that this hair is putting directly onto the surface of the leaf. I think there's something there. And if you think about it, outside of the tropics, the main form of hash production is some form of sieving, right? Usually dry sieving, but then we got the ice water as well. Whereas in the tropics, the main form of hashish production is hand rubbing, right? On live plants mostly too, or as being manicured and being rubbed off the hands. So that this membraned oils would be better to catch, be sticky. And that's one of the things I've noticed the difference to indica and sativa, and a really a good sativa, the tie, the loose tie that used to come in was such that it was so tacky, you could take one of these buds and fling it at the wall. If you did it right, it would stick. So that tackiness was something else to look for in the plant before harvest to give an indication towards that. So I think we're kind of led down a wrong path there in looking strictly at the glandular stalk trichome, and that there are other means, other structures and means, functions going on that
Oils, esters, and such. I agree. Back in my teenage years, if you could stick it to the mirror of the car, the rear view mirror, it was good to go. Yeah, good to go. You could smoke it in the Zeppelin.
The old cigarette lighters, man, they were the nice. Pop that, put some hash in there. The prehistoric vaporizers.
Yeah, before I was going to ask you, before Vapor Brothers and the Volcano, how what's your preferred method of today? When you're smoking.
There were the hot knives. You had the electric stove with the spiral.
Oh yeah.
You'd put the two butter knives
until they're white hot.
Until they're red hot, and then you would have your little piece of hash sitting there on the table or whatever, and you would take the hot knife and just tap it, and then take the other knife and it'd suck all that up. Also, what did we used to do? It was like a coaster, and you'd put the glass on the coaster, the pin. You'd put the pin through the coaster, put the little piece of hash on the pin, light it on fire till it was a flame, and then put the glass over it. and it would smother itself, and then the smoke, and then you would suck the air out of that.
I was thinking, a lot of, being from the Mid Valley on the west side of the Cascade, the west side of the valley, a lot of the flour that we were getting in the late 80s was coming from the Coast Range. And the humidities back then were always higher. And knife hits, first time I saw somebody drop from, was that you took in a knife hit. And um, we were smoking some fairly good stuff back then, I think. It was good indica, really loud, and it would, uh, it was what we all called skunk because it was just really loud indica. I think that's what. Anyway, but it was so resinous and difficult roll to roll joints out of it, nearly impossible.
Mm-hmm.
But taking knife hits and having knife hits in the fire is totally doable.
I remember that with some of those indicas, with the skunk indica, and yeah, you couldn't roll it in a joint. It didn't.
Mhm.
It would just
And or you couldn't light it with a lighter. It's just too resinous, and and to use resinous, in my mind, you think of like a dry sift and humidity and curing. There's so many things that go into that, and the evolution of the oils, esters, and trichomes over the curing process. You were talking a year or two, and that kind of made me chuckle because um I have smoked some of my own 2-year-old smoke, and it is it's great if when stored properly.
yeah.
It's
Oh,
still and it's different. And go ahead and speak on that, please.
and if it's the right strain, okay, certain strains just age beautifully. My Vanna Luna at 3 years in a glass jar in the dark. Oh my God, it was very close to Thai. The
Okay.
chlorophyll breaks down, the bud kind of goes more of that brown, the trichome kind of shrink and darken in color. Yeah, it's a different animal. And in some cases it's superior. I actually preferred it, less potent, a little less, loud, as you say, but oh my God, then you know, I'll share this with you. I'll pop it up on the screen for you. These are my, uh,
Go ahead and
up,
bring it in. Okay,
up,
there we go.
there we go.
Onset, duration, sealing, burnout,
Tolerance.
tolerance, threshold, shelf life, and potency.
Yeah, potency is just, that's a given, but it's not the main one. Onset is very simple. It's, stopwatch, baseline state, and then how long, sometimes with heavy indica, you're getting that rush on the exhale. It's that quick. Whereas some sativas, man, it's a half hour, 45 minutes. You're still climbing like that, which is why those soaring sativas never win cups, because cups are tested one joint after the other. And people are looking for that flavor, for that immediate something, and that's flow, poor flow. I tried getting her in the cups, and the people would smoke the joint and then they go on to the next joint, and 45 minutes later going, wow, I feel really see. That's the flow that you smoked 45 minutes ago. So that, duration, how long it lasts, and long onset is a sativa trait. Short onset is an indica trait. Long duration is a sativa trait. Short duration is more of an indica trait. Sealing is talking about the more you smoke, the higher you get. And that's, again, high sealing is more sativa. In indica, you'll smoke 5, 6 hits. You're not going anywhere else. You're going to sink in the couch more. Your eyes will get a little redder, but that's about all it's
I'm
going
gonna
to
tilt my wheelchair back.
There we go. And so, whereas the soaring sativa, you can get into like LSD trouble. Like, oops, oh shit, and you got like 2 hours that you got to deal with as a result of that. So that's a ceiling. Number four, that burnout and tolerance threshold, I think, is as far as what I brought to the game, that was it. Um, it's so important that when you smoke something and you have a pleasant effect from it, that when you return to it later, that you have that same effect, right? And this is again an indica sativa difference here, where I get burned out on indica really fast. Been there, done that. Okay, there's nothing interesting there. Whereas the soaring sativa or blueberry, even blueberry, I've been smoking this blueberry now for over 30 years. It takes less to get me where I need to go than it's got this nice buildup in me that there is no tolerance threshold. And I think that that's a sales point in the point of purchase, the dispensary. When a person buys something and they get it and they like it, they're going to go back and give me some more of that. And if it's not up to par, they're not going to buy that thing again. And if it rings the bell the second time, well, they're going to remember that. And so every time, as long as it's consistent, they will return to that product. And the blueberry is just prime for that. It takes time for the public to figure that out. So I'm kind of waiting on that still. But once they do, man, that blueberry, no burnout or tolerance threshold whatsoever, which then leads to shelf life. Again, indicas tend to burn, they break down quicker, 6 months to a year. That's gone. Whereas a soaring sativa, 2-3 years in the jar, and it just brings out this character. All of those things that were not pleasant or pleasurable are gone, and all that's left now is this whoa. So that's another option. And of course, potency then it's that double-edged sword. There's something that needs to be potent, but it's not necessarily cannabinoids or THC. And there's so many different things synergistic that play off each other. So we got our work cut out for us, figuring that out. And I think that this whole industry is going to really broaden the scope of science, because we're going to drugs, just in general, drugs are what taught us about the nervous system, everything we know about it, opiates and sedatives and barbiturates and then stimulants and how they're related to the brain chemicals, and finally the psychedelics, right? And so what we have yet to learn from cannabis is huge.
And there's money being put toward it today, or there will be money put toward it with this rescheduling that has never been resourced before.
Which is a
And
good, and I hope it doesn't, backfire and bite us in the ass, and more control and more whatnot. Just remember the mantra when we're going forward with this, and you're dealing with these people, you have to remind them, this is the safest substance known to human beings. I know, their mindset is such, especially the religious mindset, that, oh no, it's an inebriant. It alters your consciousness. It's bad. It's the devil's lettuce,
and
Sorry.
it's a falsehood, and there's been studies put out that are showing arguments that people who are consumers are more healthy and less likely to, because I referenced a study by UCLA Medicine recently that talked about the lung health of consumers versus smokers and non-smokers and non-consumers. And ironically, there's certain genetic changes that occur in the lung of the smoker that
Mm.
create a toxic environment for pathogens, as well as the secretions we produce also eliminate a lot of they're just lower, and this has been proven through some research at UCLA. If anyone wants to fact check me.
And then well, back to tribal peoples. They had no aversion to inhaling smoke, and it did them no harm.
And
And we're talking tobacco.
no, every kind of smoke.
Yep, sage, lavender, it's particulate matter,
Palo Santo.
and around the campfire, right?
It-
Which is tons of stuff
Again,
we
takes me
use.
back to the longhouse traditions
So
and the smoke that, yeah, the smoke. Anyway, go ahead. DJ, I don't know how much longer we have given the issues we had getting on. While you were away, I asked um some if anyone had some questions for you, and try to wrap, 2 hours is what I gave you.
yeah,
Uh,
kind of getting.
uh if
I'm
you'd
not.
like to have time to answer some questions, or would you, uh, does that sound a
Yeah,
good plan?
I have time to answer some questions, and I wanted to say too, let's do this again sometime. I'm open. This is nothing for me to sit in my living room and sit here and chat with you.
That I'm glad the connection's gotten so much stronger with the internet, the rural broadband. I'm not sure if you're. I'm hooked up on rural broadband now, where I wasn't able to do this a year ago.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I'm about 7, 8 miles outside of Pendleton Tier. I'm on the reservation, but we've got all what we need here.
uh
This is working, so yeah. I'm open
excellent.
again. So don't worry if we don't cover things now, and people have other questions. We'll just meet again.
That's I like the sound of that, DJ.
Okay.
Damon, what do you got for us?
Get verified DJ show, but where can Homer? You go to the website, djgenetics.com. I think if djshort.com will get you there too. Just scroll down to the bottom of the page, and there's a list of authorized dealers. Seeds Here Now, DC. I hate to name them because I always leave somebody out, and I don't want to leave anybody out. There's only about 8 of them.
I,
Seeds
I'll
Here Now,
pull, yeah, I can.
Seedsman, Attitude, Great Lakes Genetics, Seed Seller, Multiverse Beans, JBC Seeds. Two companies. Dark Star has 1 or 2 packs left, and Neptune. Neptune has some of the old. They've got a bunch of the mix number 1. They've got a bunch of the First Light that has the happy pussy in it. It's just sitting there. They haven't bought anything new in a long time, but I think I touched all the.
Yeah, I have that list in my notes. But
Okay,
you did a good job of covering, 90% of them.
I try. Sorry to anybody got left out.
Moisture content ideal for longest term storage.
Where I'm not a big numbers person. I go by how things feel. The Bovitas, the 65, I like what that does. So if
Mhm.
that answers the question, so I think 65% is good, where it's still spongy in the middle, but you can break it up and it combusts well. And what was
Yeah, I think what I'm smoking today would fall into that, you know, low to mid 60s,
grab
where
one I can
it'll barely,
yes.
if you touch it with your fingers, you're gonna take
Whoa!
a good chunk of the
And
goodness off with it.
here's the dusty. The bottle was dusty, but the liquor was clean. Violive glass, if you're familiar with the blue glass. This is some happy pussy from 2016.
Okay, so 10-year-old flower.
Yeah, and here we go. And this will, talk about saving something.
That that looks gorgeous for, you know.
It is, and it takes oh yeah, it's still there.
Nice,
So the
nice.
violet glass is really this blue glass I love.
So having I've graduated to black totes with jars, and I'm gonna use a refrigerator to keep things cool.
I found, thought it through. With the science on these, with the vial of glass, you're not supposed to store them in the dark. You want light, particularly even
Oh, okay.
to hit these, and the light that filters through does something, preserving what's in there.
That's
Uh,
interesting. Okay,
yeah.
I definitely need to read about that.
So yeah, that blue glass and the long-term storage. I mean, they have on their website the whole thing with the fresh tomato. They put in one of these jars supposedly for 9 months.
Oh, wow.
Take out a fresh tomato. Who knows? Claims, the hypes. Oh, nope, I don't see any more questions there.
Damon, what do we got next?
Year did he start? 1971. Was it? Yes, no, 1970. I started smoking. I got high for the first time in 1971. It took 6 tries for me to get, before I finally, like, whoa.
Yeah,
Uh,
that happened to me the first time with some indica, and it was after basketball practice. I thought I was tired, and then I took my sister's friend at the time had a little graphics like 6-inch bong, and I took a big, I was a big kid, 13 years old, seventh grade. I don't recommend seventh graders doing this, but it was an experience.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, and it just, I mean, that first high, it rang the bell. It was the Mexican flower top. Uh,
Okay.
it walked over across the street with a younger friend of mine. I was 14 at the time. It was right before my 15th birthday, month or so, and he was probably 12. He's probably about 12, and we both, got done with the joint, looked at each other. It's like, I'm feeling weird. Stood up, and I looked around. The first thing that came to mind for me was the dentist's office, because my mother worked for a dentist, and he was doing a paper on anesthetizing children. So I got lots of nitrous oxide twice a year. You know, wait, he'd leave me on the thing for 20 minutes. Thank you, Dr. Call. But anyhow, it was this concept of consciousness, like, oh, the dentist's office. But then the second thing I thought about was, firsthand knowledge of it. They lied to me. All these people lied to me about this plant, that, oh, this society, and you have to make that break, and you have to, like, oh my God. And then of course, what follows that is, what else did they lie to me about?
Of course.
And go through the list, and for me, it was pills, heroin. So, oh shit, but find me some heroin. Damn it. They lied about this, they're probably lying about that too. So that, the whole DARE program ends up, I think, making more junkies than it prevents, because it plants that curiosity in an unnatural way, and how to deal with it. But I got over it. We went to swing sets at the playground, and oh man. And then, oh God, I went home and cooked myself up a batch of eggs and omelet, whatever's. Whoo-hoo. I had an issue. I was underweight at the time, and boy, that changed. Depression gone. Yeah, no, it was like that. My
I
life. Hey,
I can say the same thing. You know, and, yeah. Long story short, it's what I needed at the moment
mhm.
after um, a period of real trauma. But what other questions might be floating out there, guys?
I forgot what the last one was. Oh yeah, when did I start smoking? Oh, that's
That's
it,
it.
man.
Hey, this was a real pleasure, DJ, and I
Likewise.
hope that we can do it again. Maybe you know make it a New Year's tradition. If not, you know, I've
Good.
got
What?
your blueberry and your flow, and that might be my. You know, I'm going to do a long flowering project, and why not get the flow in there if it's going to take a little, you know, versus
Well, Flo though, she's an anomaly. You know, she's
okay,
got a characteristic, looks, structure, but she's one of my fastest finishers indoors.
okay,
Outdoors, she does that. Well, if you get her in early enough, you know, and she has a good year, she will multi-harvest where the ends of the branches are maturing first, and you can snip them off, and then the secondaries and tertiaries after that mature, and that's the multi-harvest concept. Um, Definitely in the clone, and it's there in the seed as well. You just the right conditions, and you can do the multi-harvest.
yeah, the Pacific Northwest might not be ideal for that.
Right. Oh, a greenhouse. So you got it covered. That's
It's good. I'll yeah, make a point of it. It'd be, I mean, besides it'll drive the social media algorithm and you know make us all rich.
well, it's a whole thing. The money, you know, get over the concept of wanting money. What we want is what the money buys, right?
The you know what keeps the lights on, you know those things.
Yeah. But the thing is, just so long as the lights keep on, whether or not it's money, I don't give a shit. I want the lights on. If it takes money,
And
okay, take the token, keep the lights on. But is there a we can do this another way? And it
and
is. I'm someday there will be solar panels out here and the batteries, and I will be off grid, and which we all should be. This is so sad. It's just so sad. The amount of money that they put into infrastructure, delivering this electricity to people's houses that's generated in one place and loses so much in resistance in the lines, right? But the only reason they do this is so that the few people that own that company that generates the power can make money. Mhm. We could all be generating power at our own locations. The only thing that changes with that is there's no longer that group of people that's making money off of us.
pay back to the utility. I think we ended up with about $18 in electric cost this last year uh, because we have a solar panel.
Nice. See, and it's slowly coming around. But again, if we were on our game, on top of our game, that same amount of money, and they're taught, you know, that we need to redo the grid, right? The grid needs to be redone. Well, for the same amount of money, we could have people generating power on their own properties, but
So
it's
the
profit
AI is hungry for that power. It's there's no way around that.
started. I, oh man, they're out here. I know
Oh, and yeah, you drive by them anytime you leave your house.
a plan that would make them obsolete and give us all free internet, among other things. I don't know, maybe save this for another talk, but they're unnecessary. It's completely unnecessary, and it's coming to a head. Actually, this whole data center fiasco is causing a lot of problems. Using more power than the city they're next to, using more water, and I'm like, I can't get questions answered on it. This is the other thing that really bugs me about this. I say, okay, well, wait, what are you using the water for? Right? It's computers cooling. It's cooling, using water for cooling. Well, okay, you're using the water for cooling. I mean, even if it's super cooling and it's to steam, you can still recollect steam and reuse that water. But they're like, no, we can't do that at the data center. It's, well, why? Why? And so, you know, my sci-fi conspiracy mind goes out. This sons of bitches got portals opened up to other planets that need water.
And there on the Columbia Plateau, they think they have an endless supply in those layers of basalt, and there's a lot of misconceptions about getting their water from 5,000 feet down or from the surface, straight out of the Columbia. or putting their wastewater into the Columbia or pumping it back down
And
into the watershed.
we already did that with Hanford. And we're
That's on the other side of the river, though. It doesn't.
right. Somebody else's problem. SEP. Douglas
Yeah,
had a famous, hiding, cloaking device. You put out this vibe that's somebody else's problem, and that no one sees you. If SEP.
yeah, yeah. It's and it totally is. The way a lot of people thought about it for many years, and then the 5 million people that live downriver have been kind of for the last 50 years have kind of been a little bit alarmed,
Yeah.
but it's got to, yeah, it's not a sustainable option.
No. No. Oh well.
Uh,
We're figuring it out. Let's hope we're around long enough. We got enough good herb
and
to
good people.
good people, good herb, and ideas to pull us through all this, man.
That's great. Well, DJ, it's been a pleasure talking with you. Chat box, you help, although I missed you for most of this. I appreciate you all. And until next time, God bless our troops in America and all that good stuff. Peter, thank you for all you do. And Damon in the background, you're the best. With that, we'll catch up with you later.